Hello and welcome to another Dangerous Dialogue. Woohoo! Yeah! Oh, don't contain your excitement. Whoa! Whoa!
Stop.
It's unreal. Today we are back for more because it just wasn't enough last week, all talking about resolutions. We're here to talk about money tonight. We're not giving it out, I'm afraid. It's just a chat about it. So if you came here to receive anything, I'm sorry.
That's the only reason I'm here.
Yeah.
I thought we were paid for that.
Can I leave?
Okay, well, so I'm here on my own to talk about money tonight.
Bye.
I can already tell this is going to be a really rowdy conversation. I'm very ready for that. So just for anyone that's new to this, Dangerous Dialogues are called so because there's a lot of stigma that surrounds the topics that we talk about, and we try to destigmatize those things through these conversations. It was once said that the best way to destigmatize the topic is just to talk about it. So that's what we're going to do. And if you enjoyed this conversation, thank you very much. Like and subscribe. But if you didn't enjoy this conversation, that's also fine, because we want you to have your own. The point is that you should really leave this feeling like you either were part of our conversation or you could have your own, because we want these topics to kind of feel more comfortable, because they're things that are natural about our human life. And today that's money. So enough from me. I'm gonna let these other two wonderful people introduce themselves. Zoe, I'm gonna throw over to you first. What's your name? Where are you from? What's your problem?
We don't have all day for that last one. I'm Zoe. Hi. As Tom said, I'm from sunny Scotland. And I think I'd be good at talking about money because I use it. I like to spend it. It's great to spend. I don't know so much about saving, but that can be talked about later.
Smashing. Thank you very much. And Nea, over to you.
Hello. I am Nea. I'm from Finland, but I live in the not so sunny London. Yeah, I've been here for a few years. I'm an actor, singer, writer, person.
Talented.
Do that.
I mean, I'm saying I'm those things. I'm not saying how good I am at them. But yeah, talking about money, I guess because we don't often talk about it. I don't often talk about it, and like I find it a bit awkward to talk about. So that's why it's good to open up.
Yeah, true that. I think that's a really lovely place to start, Nea. That I think on average most people would spend money each day. I mean, maybe not, but in a week, everybody probably spends some money, whether that's on something that they have to spend on or something they need to spend on, which I'm sure we'll talk about more later. But it's weird. We don't really engage in conversations about money because I think it feels like it's a very private thing. Oh, I don't want to tell you what I'm spending because I might be ashamed of it, or I don't know. Why do people think that people are awkward or scared of talking about money?
Yeah.
Direct question. Yeah. It is a weird one because like even like with myself, I find that whether it is that I have money or I don't have money, I never really want to like point that out, because then it feels like I'm putting myself maybe into a different position with the person I'm talking to, or yeah.
It's a hard one, isn't it? I think it's not. I honestly don't know the answer to that question.
There's too many subjective variants.
Yeah.
Like it could be the case of like someone who has money doesn't want to discuss how much money they have because people around them maybe don't have as much. You know, there was that episode of Friends where 3 of them were like totally fine spending all their money and the other 3 were like, guys, we're not on that level. It could be that someone feels embarrassed about debt that they're in, or their spending habits, what they're spending their money on. There's a varying amount of things that could be the reason as to why people don't like discussing it. I mean, I think we were definitely brought up in by generations that were like, you just don't talk about money. It's just not a thing that's spoken about. You don't ask how much someone's making. It's not an important topic of conversation. It can be slightly rude sometimes to ask how much people are making or what they're spending their money on. Like sometimes you can see what people are spending their money on. But yeah, I just think we were brought up in a time where it's not a topic that's heavily discussed. So people are more scared to talk about it, like a lot of topics that you guys talk about in Dangerous Dialogues.
Absolutely. And I think in a way that's why we're here talking about it today, because I think for something that we all use so regularly, I think it's rather strange that we don't talk about it. We're having this sentence sounds wrong out of context. We were having a little joke about consent before this. And as I say, it sounds wrong out of context. There's nothing to joke about when it comes to consent.
No.
We were kind of talking about, the way that people do consent to various things and not of a sexual manner. I've made this awkward.
You really have. I think you're going to have to fill in the context so people get it.
Terrible.
So basically we were joking about like when I come down to visit Tom, because we don't live in the same areas, that I will want to meet people that I've done Dangerous Dialogues with and people from his other life down there that I don't really get to see. And Tom made a joke to Naya saying that, oh no, she definitely will. And Naya said it was fine. So I says, good, I'm glad I have your consent. At least I have your consent to stalk you when I'm done. There you go.
But to that end, I think it's that, consent goes a far way beyond what we talk about it now as, which is to do with sex primarily,
Yes.
and everything that kind of comes with. But I guess there's also that idea of talking about money to people. It's like you kind of need to consent to be open, to have a conversation saying, well, actually, this is my thoughts on this. Because I think, as you've said already, generationally, the differences are vast on so many topics, but on money, I feel like the way that people spend money, the thoughts are very different. The way that we do or don't save money. I think that's different. Is it generationally or is it more than that?
It's probably more than that, but I think it starts like generationally.
Yeah.
Because you get brought up with stuff that you have nothing to do with as well.
Yeah.
Like that you don't follow at all. So I think it's just down to the person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I don't at least remember ever talking about money at home, never really like even having a clear idea of like how much my parents were making. Like obviously I knew we were getting by and stuff, but like or comparing with how my friends' family were doing or anything. Never, like that was never really a topic.
So on that exact thought, I want to take you both back many, many years to your childhood, because we're all really
trauma.
And you potentially were given an allowance, or maybe you were given a little bit of pocket money, as I would have called it, or maybe even it was just a generous, here's £1 in a stocking at Christmas. But at one point we were all given some money, and I guarantee on the playground or with your pals, you were like, oh, do you know what? I've got £1. I'm going to spend it on 20 Freddos. Let's not bring up the Freddo thing yet. The Freddo thing is coming. But is that true of you as well? Did you both have that kind of experience as a kid?
I got some money, but I'm from a family where like my mom was basically a single parent. We were on benefits. So I couldn't get as much as some of my friends could. Like they would have like tenors and that at school. I would get a couple quid. And when I went to academy, I didn't get any money for school because I got free lunches. My mom was like, well, you don't need money. So I actually began nicking money from her purse just to kind of fit in and feel like, oh yeah. And we're not going to say what I spent the money on because it wasn't food. So I get like the sweets at the tuck shop and stuff like that, but I didn't get it to the level where a lot of people around me did.
Right
Yeah, I can't really like, I remember talking about it and it being like a cool thing, that you got an allowance, but we always, when we started to get some money with me and my brother, we always had to do something. So we had to pitch in to the house chores or something like that. So we kind of knew how it works. Like you don't just get money uh,
Right.
out of nowhere, but you have to do something to earn it. So that I found quite nice. Yeah.
I wonder, because the reason I'm asking this is because as a child, I think that's where our two feelings about money are come from, which you both just mentioned, which is, as a child, value is put on money. So you have to do something in order for this money to become yours, as you've just said, Naya. And similarly, kind of Zoe, there's then that stigma that comes right immediately of I have, I don't. In putting it in plain terms. So I wonder, as children, if that's where our worries about money instinctively start before we even have any, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it does. Like we know from a young age, like, I mean, I've got a little one, as you know, and he doesn't understand the value of money just now. He is of the, like, he can buy a Nintendo Switch with all his pennies in his piggy bank. And I don't mean pounds, I mean pennies. You know, he does get pennies, but he thinks, oh, I've got loads and loads of pennies. I've got loads of 20p's, loads of 50p's. I can buy a Nintendo Switch. I'm like, darling, I can't buy a Nintendo Switch. So you can't buy a Nintendo Switch. But we do a lot of saving for him. He's got his own piggy bank that when he's older, he'll get access to.
Right.
But he doesn't understand, like, yes, okay, you've got some pennies, but that doesn't add up to what the cost of the thing actually is. And sometimes it's difficult to, like, because you want to give your kids as much as you can. Sometimes it's difficult when they're like, but mommy, we do have money. And I'm like, well, no, darling, we don't have enough to actually put towards this thing. And he's like, but I've got so many. So they do have to kind of learn from a young age, because they ask the questions and you kind of have to tell them, like, yes, okay, you've got some sort of money, but you've not got the money that adds up to this.
Yeah.
So you do have to start teaching them from quite young.
Absolutely. So eloquently put.
Thank you. I'm not usually eloquent.
And that was it from Zoe.
Bye!
No, but I wonder, if we taught children differently, if we would behave differently with money from a young age. I'm not coming with some profound new way of trying to educate young people about money. I don't know what that is. And I totally agree that obviously we have to put value on money, because right now, that's the way the world works. It is one of the main commodities that we use to trade, to gain things. But
capitalism, we love you.
Right, exactly. I mean, we live in a capitalist society. There's just really no escaping from that. But pre-money, the world functioned really well. It worked. You know, I'm a farmer. Here's some of my crop. Great. You have some grapefruits. I'll have some of them. That exact scenario, of course, was the specific one. So why do we have money? Why do we need money?
That's a good question.
It is.
I mean, nowadays we can say why we need money, because money does make the world go round. And there's the ye old saying that money doesn't buy happiness, which it doesn't, but it's very hard, especially in such a capitalist society, especially a corporate capitalist society. It's very difficult to find any sort of like feelings of like joy or happiness, or, you know, like just contentment without at least a little bit. So I'm not saying you have to be the world's richest person in the world, like you don't need to be Jeff Bezos, but it's very difficult to it's very difficult to get by sometimes on like low incomes, or you know, but the people that do deal with the lower incomes and those that are below the breadline tend to be the people that take less things for granted. And do find other ways to create happiness, but they've still got the difficulties, especially like kids below the breadline, of stuff they should never have to deal with or worry about as a child.
Yeah, it is, like, because like sometimes I even find myself think like, oh, but it's just money. But like, it's not just money, because if you don't have it, you can't think of it like that. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess in the scenario that I'm proposing for this utopian world, where we don't have money, you still
Where
need
we go back to feudalism.
sounds
Back to a feudalist
great.
society.
We still need things to trade. You still physically have to have a thing.
Oh, I'm not gonna do well. I have no skills.
So that's so not true. You've just spoken for like 10 minutes so wonderfully.
Oh yeah, so my trade is going to be, hi, I speak sometimes. Trade with me.
You say that. I mean, like, you know, people pay to come to talks.
exactly, like some people do that for a living. Like they speak and then they convince people to whatever.
I mean, you know, we jest, but actually there's so many industries where people are the products, and I'm not, I mean, there's great industries with that, but there's also terrible industries with that. Of course, the great side being of that, like acting, you know, you are ultimately selling yourself as the product, or performance of many different kind of categories. But I guess the other end of that is that, sort of just trigger warning to put it out there before that even comes out of my mouth, that, you know, there are people that are trafficked and they are themselves the commodity.
Yes.
So I don't know. I think it's interesting to me that those kind of trades don't really tend to involve money, because money is a traceable thing most of the time. And in our wonderful world where all my money is physically inside this tiny thing, I don't carry a wallet anymore. So if you're going to rob me, I'm the worst.
Yes, that's absolutely a thing. Like, see if I go out with my dad or my mom and that, and like when we're at a restaurant and we're going to tip, I'm always like, I've got no cash on me. Like, I just do not carry cash anymore because I don't feel the need to. And then every time I go out, I'm like, maybe I should carry cash just for that thing. Then I always forget because it's all on my phone. Whereas my dad's like, no, I always have to have at least a 20 pound to go to the pub with, just in case my card doesn't work or something happens or technology goes down.
Right.
So it goes to show you again, generationally, there's that difference. Yeah. There's that difference of, yes, I need to keep money on me. Whereas our generation is like, oh, my money's here. I don't even need a purse or a wallet, or I don't even need my bank card out with me.
Yeah.
I can use this thing.
Yeah, that is,
I can use this thing to pay for stuff. And I feel like a secret agent every time.
But then it's like, so much depends on that. Like, if something goes down with connections or whatever, it's like, well, I've got nothing now.
I mean, I was mugged a few years ago outside a tube station. I'm not like reciting my trauma. This is not my RuPaul moment with like a me like putting on whatever. But my phone was taken, and I was like, well, fuck, because how do you get home? Like, I'm suddenly in this world where money is like so important, but then actually people became important more than money, because there was a couple near me who were like, we'll buy you a tube ticket home. And it was like, that's so generous of you, that's so kind. And even the TfL staff said that, you know, that's something that they would do as well. But, you know, it's that thing where like, actually in that scenario I could survive without money because of the kindness of others. But, you know, that's a very small scenario when people have to live on kind of very, very low wages, as you've already brought up, Zoe. Statistics, you say.
We didn't, but all right.
So according to 2017 UK government statistics, 20% of Britons are living in poverty, which is roughly, according to statistics now post-pandemic, because obviously that's pre-pandemic, it's more like 22%. So that's 8 million working adults, 4 million children, and 1.9 million pensioners. That is a lot of people. That's a lot of people.
We don't even have that many people in Finland.
Right. Yeah, actually, you're right. You know, 4 million people is about one point something million less than the population of Scotland. That's crazy. And in the same world, we have a chancellor, Rishi Sunak, who's the richest chancellor to ever be in charge of finance in the UK, who is worth, I don't have it off the top of my head, who's worth 4.3 billion. He's in charge of the money of this country, and in some ways that's excellent, because he is someone that understands money clearly, because he's a self-made billionaire, and congrats to him for that. But in the same way, as Zoe's already kind of said, I question, when you have that much money, where you put the value. Like, is your pennies to pay for a Nintendo Switch like a thought that even goes through your head?
And that's the thing you're saying with like how many people are in poverty. The UK is one of the richest countries in the world.
Right.
One of the richest. It's in the top 25 richest countries in the world. I've just been looking it up just now. I don't know exactly where, but it's one of the richest countries in the world, and yet we have one of the highest poverty populations. Yeah. And if you look at it ratio wise, obviously we've got a lot less people than some other. I need to stop swinging on this chair. We've got the less population than a lot of other places in the world. So it's like, where is that money?
Yes.
If we're one of the richest countries in the world, where is that money going to if we can't even pay to like look after our own who are struggling to even buy a meal?
True, exactly. I mean, you know, Jake put my teeth back in, big smog. I saw an article on him today about how he runs a very lucrative business, but it's registered in the Cayman Islands, so he doesn't pay any tax. And that's great. That's lovely, isn't it? Fantastic. But he sits in our parliament, and I find that sickening personally. And to be clear, I'm not here to criticize those that have lots of money, because the likes of what we just mentioned, like Rishi Sunak, that's, you know, he made that himself. But I think the polarization, which is kind of what you're talking about there, Zoe, of the opposite ends of the spectrum in the UK right now is so extreme.
Absolutely. Like the in between of that, it's almost it's massive, and the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer, and nothing's being kind of done about that. Yeah. I'm fine with rich people being rich. Hell yeah, go you. Like, well done you for getting there. Some people got a little bit of help along the way, let's just say, but absolutely, if you were able to get to yourself to a place, then by all means, like, I'm happy for you having that much money. But we shouldn't be in a place where there's people in our country that are struggling the way that they are.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm interested, Naya, from kind of your perspective, because obviously we're talking very, very British perspective here, to be honest. And
I'm Scottish, thank you.
Wow, yes, Scotland, currently part of Britain. We'll see how that goes over the next few years.
That was a different dangerous dialogue.
It was. We did that one actually. But yeah. So I don't know about sort of Finland and kind of your wider perspective on this.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, especially on, like you mentioned, like you had free lunches at school, and that's why, whatever you said, that I'm just like I'm referencing.
Why I stole money from my mum.
Yes. Yeah. There we go. But yeah, because in Finland, everyone gets free lunches at school. I remember, like, when I was au pairing here, and I had a conversation because they had to like pay a check to like contribute to the school lunches, and then I was like, oh, in Finland it's like 80 pence or 80 cents or whatever a meal per child, and then they were like, oh yeah, so that's probably because your taxes are higher, so that's only the amount you pay. I was like, no, actually, we don't pay that. They just calculated that that's how much kind of it takes to make the full food for, but nobody pays anything. And like the whole benefit system, I feel like I'm not sure. Is there kind of like a more of a stigma here if you get benefits?
Oh yeah.
Because in Finland, at least, like my experience is like if you can get, say, like housing benefit, you take it. Like, and nobody's gonna look at you twice.
Wow.
And here I like remember like trying to find flats to rent and stuff, and people saying like, oh, if you're on housing benefit, we're not gonna take you. And I was like, but that's just silly.
Yes.
Like,
There's a lot of places that won't take anyone who's on benefits, but then there's places that are made specifically for that kind of people. And what you were saying about like the stigmas, there's the stigma that people on benefits are lazy, they don't want to do anything, like they can't get off their arse to actually work. Excuse my language. And then there's the government helps them and ignores everyone else, and they get so much money, and that's how they're able to live for ages on it, and why they don't come off of it. And just from personal experience, from what I get, because I myself I am on benefits, I live in a mid-market rented place, so my rent's slightly cheaper than other places would be, and it is with a housing association. But I'm a single parent who at the moment has a young child. I don't really have anyone else to look after in bar school. So working is currently not an option for me because I need to get hours that just do school hours and holidays. And it's difficult to pay for childcare. They do have funded hours, but would I need more than that to be able to afford that? So at the moment, I do college to then get into a job. So when he's older, he can kind of look after himself and I won't need to, and blah, blah, blah. But there's just a lot of stigmas that people just can't be bothered, and they get loads of money. And what I get, it's wonderful. It's enough to survive on. I can't really save. Really save with all my outgoings. If I really, really tried to, but you know, it's wonderful, and I'm not knocking what it is that we get, because I wouldn't be able to survive without it. But I don't think people realize, like, sometimes it is difficult being on benefits. And I'm not saying that as like victim wise, because I know how difficult it is to not have that extra help, and I'm so lucky. But people just think it's a lot easier than it actually is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We do have a bit of that in Finland as well. Like, well, usually it's in connection with like, oh, all the immigrants come here and they just take all the benefits and then they just like do whatever the fuck they want. Like, no.
Are you from Finland or Britain?
Yeah.
I know it sounds very similar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, there is a lot of that, and like some people saying like, oh, actually, it's like better financially to be on benefits than to do like the lowest paying job sometimes. But I'm like,
oh, absolutely. But it is, if you're on minimum wage, it absolutely works out better for you to be on benefits.
But with regard to that, exactly, that is the issue. That's the issue itself with money. Is the
costs are up here, wages are here.
Right, exactly. The value is placed in the wrong places. So it's like great that we have this system where we can allow people to be able to live, point blank. Like that's what the benefit system is. But we're not providing the opportunities for work potentially, because when the lowest income doesn't support one person, let alone several, it's not sustainable. You can't tell people that, oh, well, you have to go and take that job. No, they don't have to go and take that job. The reality is that does not work. It doesn't work. You need to up the minimum wage. And I understand that that's expensive and it takes a knock. But you know, the wage rises over the last however many years have been so minuscule that everything else shooting up, like housing prices, like energy prices are about to go up again. Tax is about to go up again here in the UK. All these things rising, but the income is not rising. So that's that discrepancy that you're kind of both talking about there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I feel irked.
I'm irked. Yeah, but like I find that, especially benefits wise, like people forget it's very subjective. Like circumstances are very subjective. Like I am going to find it more difficult to get in employment than a family with two parents, two incomes, etc. Because I don't even receive like child maintenance or anything. Like I don't have any extra money from the other side. So it's very difficult getting into a job that is going to provide the right hours and is going to provide the right pay and the right after school care and etc. that I can't provide for myself. And the job center tends to have a habit of hounding people, being like, no, you have to work, you have to work, you have to work, or you have to at least like look for work. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to need all this first before I can actually go out and work properly. I mean, I don't want to stay on benefits. I do not want to stay on benefits. I do not want to stay in the benefit system. I want to go out and get a job, but it's just not viable for me right now with a young child.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's a lot of people who are in my position as well.
Yeah. And I would argue that the system just doesn't understand that position, because no one that runs that system has ever been in that position.
No, the people that do run the systems and the money systems have never been. I would love if there was some sort of program where you take like the highest paid people. I know there's like the holidays, but like the highest paid government people.
Yeah.
And you limit them to what someone on benefits gets a week.
Oh, this sounds so Channel 4. I love it.
Right? You limit them to what there is. Well, there's the rich holiday, poor holiday and stuff like that.
Right.
But that's always like the younger kids of rich families.
Oh.
But I want people like that are sat in Parliament, that are sat making up these systems or making up like the budgets and all that, like to come and just live on what the lowest waged family who are in work and all that, just dealing with like a week on that sort of income, just to see how it is.
Yeah.
And just to see if what they're doing or if they could be doing any better. And that's not just with benefits, that's also with the national living wage that they're giving out.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's not to say that there aren't people who earn a lot of money and it isn't that's fair. That's fine. I mean, a lot of them work very hard and earn that money.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of people that pay very fair taxes on those monies that they do earn. But you are absolutely right that it's not about those people. It's not about this middle ground, which actually makes up most of the population. It's this bit up the top here. To clarify, I didn't go this way. It was up the top here, or maybe up the top here. I don't know, but up the top, where that there is. I think the issues lie primarily. I don't think. I know. Like that's what we hear. I sound like some fucking wanker on Twitter, but
You are.
I am. Follow me.
You're a wanker and you're on Twitter.
Don't tell my mom. Oh my goodness. No, my mom watches these, so behave. Also, hi Helen, if you're gonna watch this. Did you know
I don't know
Zoe
if
was
she
making money on your purse?
Oh yeah, she absolutely did. Of course, we talk about it now. Hilarious now. Yeah, she knows I used to sell tenors.
But in itself, that's great that you've had that conversation with your mother. That there was like an open conversation.
Yeah. I also used to, because for some reason when I was younger, she gave me her PIN number to her cards, which was a bad idea. Especially like I'm very impulsive. And I have a disorder that leads me to impulsive things, which is borderline personality disorder, because it should be talked about. And I tend to do impulsive things, but my impulsive thing is spending. So when I'm sad, I need to spend money. I need to buy myself something nice to make myself feel better. So that's what I would do with my mum's card. I would take money out and etc. So for a long time, I was banned from all sort of money utensils. But now we're at a stage where I now know my mum's PIN codes again because she trusts me.
Right.
So although I'm still impulsive, I spend my own money.
Yeah.
Not hers.
I think we're kind of hitting on that weird transition bit between childhood and adulthood, where suddenly you have to be responsible. You have no fucking choice. And I think that is the hardest bit of life. And I mean, we're all in our kind of 20s. We've surprise. In a way, I think I personally feel like I've only just come out the other side of that weird transition phase where I suddenly have to, so like I have this with me, which is, it sits on our fridge and it tells us how much each bill costs. And I'm sure many people have a similar system. I also have a spreadsheet because I love spreadsheets. But I feel like for me to fully ever understand how I'm going to afford things, I need to know how much they're going to be and then work out that income. That's normal, right? That's just, here's the expenditure, here's the income. I mean, I'm not going to sit and go through all of that, but like all together, my monthly bills and rent come over just over £800. And I'm in a flat of 2, so that's each. Which I would say for North London, honestly, I think that's quite good. But that's something that no one teaches you at school. And this is my biggest irk. My biggest irk is that I'm fucked off, actually. I'm gonna say I'm fucked off. Put that on your Instagram. That
Can you please clip that for the Instagram?
I will clip this. This is the Instagram clip.
I'm fucked off.
I'm fucked off. That in schools there is not a class that is on this is what tax is. This is how you work out your tax. You will be asked to pay it, and if you don't pay it, you'll have to pay a lot more. Also, you're going to get a gas bill, you're going to get an electric bill, you're going to get a Wi-Fi bill because a Wi-Fi is a necessary thing now.
Absolutely.
And you may have other bills like TV and phone and whatever. But I literally, I feel like I sound like a conspiracist, but I think it feels wrong that it's not on a national curriculum, that someone in government has gone, don't teach them that. Why?
That's the thing. School doesn't teach you real life skills.
It's true.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Like, there's so many things that should be on the curriculum that I think, that you think, that we all think. I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. That we all think should be on the curriculum that are not. And that taxes, like, if you become self-employed, like, I have no idea how to go about doing my taxes if I'm self-employed. I'd have to have someone to show me. We have people like accountants that we need to hire for certain things because some people just have no idea. I mean, to be fair, they would kind of lose some jobs if we all knew how to do it. So, but there must be something in the background that's like, we shouldn't teach people these real life skills so they're clueless and so we can take advantage.
Right, because
that's just my view. I'm not saying that's correct. It's just a personal opinion.
I think you're right, though, because we teach other important life skills. We teach sex ed, not well, but we teach it.
Don't get me started on how terrible sex education is in schools.
Yeah, I mean, that will be a hot topic in a few weeks' time because we're talking about sex.
I want to come.
That's your fucking Instagram clip. But really, I mean, there are some real life skills in schools, and I think in Scotland, which is arguably the more progressive country, I'm of course very biased, out of the one I currently live in and one I used to live in, I think the curriculum has adapted really well to learn newer skills, but it's still not got fucking tax on there. Not got life skills and billing skills. Do they in Finland?
No, and I was like, I've always been like raised and like I've known like, oh, tax is kind of this and it's a good thing, at least the way like my parents or whoever's ever talked about it. But I feel like if it was talked about more and yes, like educated on, people would actually understand how it works and probably then be like less against it, because like definitely there's, well, at least when I moved to Ireland, say, I remember like my employer was like, oh yeah, well, you'll have to register for tax. Kind of like, ugh, that's the kind of bad necessity. Well, I'm like, yes, hell yes, like I'll do it, because that's the way I've been raised. Like I know that this is a thing we do, and it benefits everyone. But I feel like if it was demystified, it would become much like clearer for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that kind of goes back to the idea that we don't teach kids anything valuable about money, really. And I'm not saying that, you know, people should be sitting with their 5-year-olds being like, so on your tax return on page 3, you know, that's not, no.
That's not what I'm supposed to be doing.
Well, if that is what you're doing, I applaud you. But
I wouldn't even know what to do on my tax. Like, I've had pay slips before, and see when they break down all the time, I'm like, I have no idea what any of these are for.
Right.
I just know that they take that, and I'm like, cool, that's fine.
And I mean, you know, there are some free courses out there, but they're for adults. they're not well publicized because it's not lucrative for people to get their tax return right, because people don't make money off of that, and it is itself a business. It's like any risk factor. When people take out a loan, the bank's kind of gambling on you not being able to pay it back perfectly because they make money on it. I mean, that's capitalism. Like, I'm not trying to say that capitalism is shit, but it's not great for the regular person.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, question for you both: are any of us ever going to buy a house?
I want to. I hope to. I do have. When the Bank of Scotland still had the, you know, the ISAs that was specifically for putting money in, and then at the end, once you take it out to go towards a mortgage, the government gives you a certain amount. The Help to Buy ISA, that's the word I was looking for. I took one out just for £1 before it shut down, and I've been trying to put in there, but it's like, it's not even money that I've been able to save myself. It's been like from birthdays and Christmases and stuff like that. So there's not loads in there. There's not. But I don't plan on getting a house until he's in academy, at least. So that's another like 7 years.
Yeah.
I've got like birthdays. I'm going to have another 7 birthdays and Christmases during that time that I can put something towards. So that's my plan, is to get something in the future. Hopefully by that time it won't just be me, but knowing me, it probably will be.
Well, I will send you all my love. So you can live with
I'd
my
rather
love.
have your money. I'd rather have your money.
I'll definitely give you a tenner towards it. Like, I'll send you
Sold.
birthday money.
Sold. That's better than what most people do.
Go on, Naya. Would you ever think that you'll buy property?
But that's an interesting one also, because like, obviously I'm an immigrant at the moment, at least. Who knows what happens? So that's why I haven't really like thought about it, because I don't even know, like, oh, will I be living in London or somewhere here or somewhere place else abroad, or will I go back to Finland? So yeah, I haven't really thought about it that far into the future, because it feels like it's gonna be far in the future.
Yeah.
It is.
You might be rich and famous by that time and won't need to worry about it.
And they
Like,
also
some
do it for
houses
your birthday.
Yeah, you get a house and you get a house.
But I mean, you know, this is where the Fredo thing comes in, because I think it's hilarious that in the UK we judge inflation by the rate of what Fredos cost. I think that is really funny.
I love that.
I mean, but that is so true that people are like, oh my
It
God,
is.
how much a Fredo is now. Because when I was a kid, they were 5p. I actually don't know how much a Fredo is right now, but I swear it's over.
Do you want me to Google it?
Go for
My
a
laptop's
Google.
right here. Okay.
But
Is like 90?
oh, that's really painful to think about.
That I might actually vomit if that's it.
The tension. I'm gonna put tension music on this.
Okay. So here, this that I'm looking at currently, it says that in 2020 they were 35p.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Still, that's
Yeah.
Definitely. That's hilarious, because as a kid for 35p you could get like a nice chocolate bar.
A
Like
proper pick and mix.
Yeah.
You could get a proper pick and mix for 35p.
Woolworths. Oh, anyway, the reason I mentioned Fredos and inflation specifically is because the cost of housing has gone up so much in even our lifetimes alone. Property that would have cost like an affordable amount that you could get a mortgage for is so out of our price range that, as Zoe's already said, we're not going to be deep into our 30s. We're gonna be hitting the kind of what people would have called their middle ages by the time we even own property. And that's the reality of it. Like, it's unfortunately, you either wait for a parent to die, or you have to get a lot of money in a very, very high paying job, which arguably you needed a very fancy degree in the first place to have, which itself costs a lot of money.
Yeah, which you need to pay back once you start working.
Exactly. So it's this vicious circle. And, you know, I find it perplexing, the amount we all pay in rent. I'm like, well, that's a mortgage right there. Give me a house and I'll pay you a mortgage.
Yeah, no, I don't ever want to add up my rent for a year, because like it's gonna make me sick. Yeah,
I'll come and do a spreadsheet for you.
No,
I've got sheets that I have as well. I don't know where they are right now. I'm not going to go searching for them, but I've got sheets that I write stuff out. Also, I have to say hi to Alonso because he's watching, and yeah.
Hello, Alonso.
Hi, Alonso.
Our mums and Alonso got a shout out. That's quite wonderful.
Anyone else who's watching and has my number on me on Discord, message me and I'll say hi.
But I mean, so we've talked a lot about the negative sides of money in a way. And I feel like people don't talk about money because they think it's all negative. But there's so many wonderful things about money, to be honest, which makes me sound like an absolute capitalist, I know.
You know what's wonderful about money? The fact that we got to see Jeff Bezos flying a penis-shaped skyship.
Exactly.
Rocket ship. That was wonderful. That was wonderful to make fun of.
I mean, Austin Powers.
That made me happy. He could never.
But you know, it's like, genuinely, someone like Jeff Bezos, for instance, sure, I mean, we can sit and talk about him for a very long time and the taxes he does and doesn't pay and what Amazon do and don't pay their staff. But the reality is, I think we all use Amazon a lot and it's very convenient. And, you know, services like this wouldn't have happened without kind of money. And I guess ultimately the rise of capitalism.
Yeah, and rationalization. If you look at it from Weber's point of view, sorry, I'm getting into social sciences now. Oh God. He looked at, you know, the transition from traditional views to rational views, going from like doing things by habit to doing things because of efficiency and going into dehumanization and stuff like that. So the more that we've progressed, the further away we've got from like the traditional, like I can make a wheel, you can make another part of the wagon, to McDonald's, for example, is a great example of rational thinking, because you know what you're getting for your money, which is not that great quality, but because it's fast, it's easy, it's cheap, you're still going to use it. It's the same with fast fashions. And that's how capitalism has managed to climb to the place it has, is because we want things that are quick, easy. We know the quality, we know what we're getting, but it's fine because it's easier to do than actually going out and buying something, especially with wages and that. Like, we need the quick and easy and cheap rather than the good quality but slightly more expensive.
Quick, easy, and cheap is what it says on my dating profiles.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Swipe right.
But anyway, you're right though. I mean, it's not that you needed my validation for that.
I always need validation. Please validate me. It's how I survive.
You're right. But I think in turn, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because sure, we've centralized buying. Like, if you buy exclusively on Amazon, it's not really great for the economy. It's great for Amazon, but it's so convenient to shop at these kind of places that I can do my shopping on the tube. I can sit on my phone and be like, this is what I would like on my commute to and from work, which in turn means I can work more and I can earn more.
Yeah, and you don't have to go in and be around all these people. Ugh. Who wants to be around people?
I mean, we're on Zoom, so none of us.
We're on Zoom because I live hundreds of miles away.
I mean, I'm sure we'll do a dangerous dialogue on Zoom at some point about Zoom, or like online conferencing. But the convenience that we have from Amazon is the convenience that we have from Zoom, really. You know, last week we had 2 people from the States and 2 people from different parts of the UK. And, you know, ultimately we're also in very different bits of the UK at the moment. Sure, South London and North London are in the same city, but we, you know, that's quite
still
unique,
far.
actually.
I've been to your place. You're
Yeah.
far.
Yeah, I get down to Glasgow quicker than you'll get across.
That's actually true. But yeah, I guess it's easy to focus on the cons of money and forget that there are a lot of positives that have come as a result of it. Like we joked earlier about the phones and I love how I used my phone as an actual prop earlier, and now I'm trying to just fucking pretend I have one.
I thought you meant the whip. I was like,
yeah, it's so convenient. But you know, actually, in terms of keeping track of what you spend, although it's easier to spend it now, it's I think so much easier to keep track of.
I feel like because you're not handing over physical money, you also forget like how much you're spending.
Right.
Like, and when there's stuff like overdrafts, go over in your money, it's like, but it's okay, I've got an overdraft. It's like, I think people forget that like that's not money you actually have. Because especially like I know with RBS, it comes up with available, and that'll add your overdraft into it, so it looks like you've got like all this money available, when really no, you've only got some of that. The rest of it is an overdraft that you can use if needs be. So you don't actually have that money, and then that's the danger of going down the rabbit hole of, oh well, I have this, it's fine, or I can just pay it back, or I've got my credit card, I'll pay that back later, or very accounts. Or, you know, like stuff like the finance accounts, like look at Klarna and everything, like all these finance accounts that you're like, oh, well, that's fine, I can pay this up in like 3 different payments. But then you go and you put another thing on 3 different payments and another thing on 3 different payments, because when you're looking at it individually, you're like, oh, this is great, like I only have to pay like £4.50 on this. But then you've got the other like £6 that you had to pay on the last product, and then the £12 that you had to pay on the other, like the bundle you got from Shein or Shein, whatever it is, and then it all adds up, and you're like, oh crap, what have I done?
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
well, it's easy and it's great.
Yeah, I don't actually, I've never used one of those, like, but like usually if you pay in installments, it actually ends up being more in the end. But it's just so tempting to do that because it's less money at one go. So
the convenience again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it helps for people like myself. Like I've been complaining about like how I don't have any of this money, blah blah blah. Whereas I'm sitting here with like AirPods in and an Apple Watch. Right. You're like, well, how have you got those things if you don't have money? It's because I use stuff like Very. You know, I pay it up over a year. So yes, I've got it, but I'm paying this up. Which I could be using that money for better things, you know. But when you use stuff like that, like it also kind of helps towards. Did you message me? You messaged me. Hi, Tom.
Oh, hi.
He asked me to shout him out on Discord. Hi, Tom.
You said if you wanted to shout out.
It's true, and I shouted you out.
You did. It was great.
Yeah, so it's like this helps with like those people that can't just buy them outright to feel like they kind of fit in, like because everyone has Apple Watches now and everyone has AirPods and everyone has an iPhone and this and that. So I do like the convenience of these finance apps and finance things that you can choose to pay up, but it can get dangerous. There's like 2 sides to it. Like I'm lucky enough, like I don't go mental with it. Like once I've bought something, I will pay that off first before I get something else, if I choose to get something else. Yeah. Whereas a lot of people won't do that. They'll put one thing on, they'll be like, oh, I could just put this on top of it as well. And I could just put this on top of it. And then all of a sudden you're in like, and they keep putting your credit up. Like my credit went from like £600 on their account, and now I can spend 1,200.
Right, because
and people forget,
it's that
you don't actually have that money. Yes, exactly. You don't actually have that money. You have to pay that back. I think so. If you're not smart about it.
Yes, exactly. It's being smart about it, isn't it? I think it's sort of that. I always remember people would watch these kind of documentaries about people who have less money than them ultimately, and would say, well, it's so stupid, look, they have the Apple Watch or the AirPods, like, why? And I think you forget that people are allowed to have nice things, they're allowed to enjoy themselves. Yes, just because they have less money doesn't mean that they can't have those things. As you said, Zoe, there's the fitting in element of it, which I think is so important, because you need to be happy ultimately. And yes, people need to be able to afford everything else in life. But me paying my electric bill is not going to make me happy. I need to do it. Otherwise, you wouldn't see me right now. But I like that I have a phone.
Yes, exactly. And I will always pay my bills before I'll get anything for myself.
Right.
So if I've paid all my bills and I have something left over, maybe I'll get my eyebrows done. It's not an every month thing that I can afford every single month. It's not that. Or maybe, I could spend a little bit of money on Riley's clothes. I could get him some new clothes. But it's not something I can do every single month. I don't have the expenditure every single month. I don't have the extra money every single month. But sometimes I do. Sometimes I do. And if I do, I'm allowed to spend on what I see fit.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There's one last point that I want to encourage us to think about before we finish, because I know, it's getting so juicy. I was thinking about media, and we have a lot in pretty much all of these dangerous dialogues that we've done, and the way that it influences our thought process. But I kind of was consciously thinking about specifically TV shows and music recently, and it's interesting having posted this to our Instagram and then searching money in songs and going, wow, there's a lot of songs about money. There's a lot of songs about money, but none of them are about, I don't have any money. None of them are about, I'm struggling a little bit financially, or none of them are like, gonna make my rent next week, except for rent. But that's a different category. And similarly with TV shows, they're all about good middle-class families. And if there's an episode about them struggling with money, it's a bad episode. It's the episode where they're like, oh no, we're struggling. And that's their demise that week. That's their problem of the week. It's not about, which is why I love Malcolm in the Middle, which is about a family that's like all the time like, oh, how do I feed 5 children? Sorry, Zoe, go on.
I was just going to say, you've obviously never heard Money, Money, Money by ABBA. Because that's about money, money, money must be funny in a rich man's world.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
All things I would do if I had a little money.
The irony is that's the song I picked for the... But I mean, thinking of like having grown up in the 90s, rap music in particular, and hip hop, here's my big chain, look at my money, whoa, all the money.
My ice on my neck.
Yeah, like, exactly.
And then there's the connection of like, and then you get all the girls and whatever. Like if you've got the cash, then yeah. Even
in the panto we just did, Naya, I mean, like, I know that the whole panto is supposed to be a critique on the world, but there's a line that if I get all the riches, then I'll get all the village bitches, I think was the line, or something like that.
Poetry.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you guys write that yourself? Was that a bit you wrote?
I think
yourself?
That one was Brian, actually. I have to give Brian his credit.
Standard Brian. That's standard Brian.
I could hear him saying it.
I could hear him saying it. That's why I had to ask. Did he have his Benny sunglasses on while he said
it? Cool. Just to finish with, I'm going to ask everyone to give me their little wrap-up comment. Something that you think you're going to take away from the fact that we've had our conversation. Something that makes you go, I'm glad I had this conversation. Other people should have these conversations too. I feel like I should start because I've just put you all on the spot there. So I should say my thing to let everybody else have that little bit of time to think. I think that I feel really healthy after this, actually. I feel like I'm more consciously thinking about money. And if that's all I take away from this, that's great. I think I know I'm already quite frugal and clever with money, but I think I maybe would be more conscious about when I'm tapping with this. I might start getting some cash out the cash machine. Ooh, that feels weird. But I feel, I don't feel like money worries will ever be something that none of us have. But I do think if I were in a position where I did have some, I would feel more comfortable talking about it with someone, because I've just, listened to other people say the same thing. So yeah, I think that's my big takeaway from this personally. Go on, Naya.
Definitely, probably like the biggest takeaway is that it's not actually scary to talk about money.
Yeah.
And also to not take it for granted, but also try not to worry about it too much.
Yeah.
If it happens that you do have it. So yeah, but also maybe do a spreadsheet.
Love a spreadsheet.
Might be good for me.
Message
Yeah.
me. Go on, Zoe.
I think something we didn't touch on majorly was like serious financial issues and serious debt and stuff like that. Like if you are in a position where you are extremely struggling with money, don't be scared to talk to someone about it. Don't be scared to seek help about it. It's okay. People do get into money issues for loads of different reasons. And if you are in a position like that, like you're not alone. It can be sorted. You can look for help in those kind of situations. So make sure like you're able to open up, even if it's to a parent, to a friend, to someone. They're not going to have a solution for you, but you get to lift that weight off your chest.
Yeah.
It's very easy to fall into financial hardship, even through no fault of your own, especially in times like COVID, where everyone was being made redundant and furloughed, etc. But there is ways out of that, but you don't have to deal with it just by yourself, worrying about it all the time. So I think I wanted to just shift that in there. And what I'll probably take away is that I hate capitalism. Capitalism is not my favorite. And I'll probably stick with the tappies. But I do have areas with finance that I need to work on sometimes.
Yeah, I think we all do, was the big takeaway. Yeah. To Zoe's point, in the YouTube description of this, we'll put some links to kind of helpful charities and people that you can call if you do need to, like Citizens Advice Bureau. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us, both to anyone watching us, to our mums, and of course to Nia and Zoe. Next week on our Dangerous Dialogues, we're really jumping quite from one end of the spectrum to another. We're talking about abortion next week, which is obviously a very different topic, and I understand for a lot of people quite a polarizing thing. So that'll be quite a heavy conversation, but please do join us for that as part of our season of love and relationships and the sticky stuff, which is a very exciting event that we have through February. I didn't make that date. That is the name of the event. Like, that's not me just talking shy. So
that makes a change.
Okay, yeah. Okay, enough of that. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely evening, and we'll see you